Oh, right, right. First hurdle, recording. Welcome everyone to today's Live Well Live webinar. It's fantastic to have you all here. Today's webinar is all about supporting you on a holistic weight loss journey that lasts. Today, we're talking about the science of lasting weight loss. My name is Dr. Samantha Wellapilly. I'm a GP. I'm also a nutritionist and a yoga therapist and a coach and an author. So doing all these things, I really have feel like I have a good handle on what it is to experience a transformation and to be consciously going through a transformative process that losing weight and losing weight for the long term can really be. And I'm joined today by my colleague Mandeep, who's going to introduce herself also.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Mandeep, and I'm one of the pharmacist independent prescribers here at Boots Online Doctor. I'm also one of the weight loss service leads as well, so quite passionate about bringing information in a way which is accessible to our patients and supporting you all on your weight loss journeys.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mandeep. So, we've got first slide is all about accountability. So if you would like to share, if you were with us last week, please do let us know if there have been, or if you've not, were not with us last week, if you've had any changes this week that have been positive and had a positive impact on your weight loss journey, let us know. I just want to check that everybody can see and hear us. There's just a message in the chat box saying that you can't. It's good to see you. Also, we're live. Do let us know where you are. How's it going for you this week? If it's been a tough week, we're all going through things whilst our life is happening simultaneously, and sometimes things happen in our lives that can derail us a bit. But you're here today, so hopefully, if it has been a bit of a derailing week, you're coming back on track, and you're here to learn a few tips and tricks to get you going. So we've got a poll as well today. This is just to start us off, just to have an idea of where we're at and who we're talking to, asking you about the answers are completely anonymous, by the way, so don't worry about what your answers are. It's just a point of reflection, really, more than anything. We would like to know what area you find most challenging when trying to maintain or lose weight. So, it's a good thing for us to know. So, thank you for answering the poll. Quite a few of you are replying. Um, and we've got the winner is snacking or cravings so far. That seems like a top one that's being voted up. Emotional eating, social things, eating out. I think maybe this time of year holidays are also a bit of a tricky time um, to stay on track and stay on your you know trying to maintain new healthy habits, form new healthy habits when our routine goes a little bit out the window when we're on summer holidays or actually when we go on holiday, for example. Thank you, everybody. I'll just end the poll there. Thank you for your answers. Um, yeah, so the winner was snacking or cravings is the part that you find challenging when it comes to maintaining or losing weight, social occasions, and emotional comfort eating being close seconds there. Thank you, everybody. So, without further ado, let's get on. So, we want to really talk about making this uh, your long-term weight loss success story. Okay, so what we can do, what we'd really suggest is really have an idea of the end that you have in mind. Before we talk about all the things that you'll do to get there, think about the bigger picture. And when you first started your weight loss journey, you probably had a really good reason for wanting to lose weight. But today, what we'd like to do is to encourage you to think a little bit a step further. So, what would success to you, and it's completely personal, look like in a year from now? Not just weight. We're not just talking about weight. We're talking about all the things that go alongside when we're on a weight loss journey, because that's only one component. And actually, what does that number mean? It doesn't really mean anything, but actually does the fact that we've lost weight, we feel lighter in our bodies, we have less joint pain, we have more energy. What are those things that you can identify? How would you like to feel in perhaps a year's time? And it might be useful to recognize what might feel a bit more difficult at the moment. Is it perhaps playing with children or grandchildren? Is it that you'd like to be able to walk further without getting out of breath, manage hills better, feel more confident, have more energy? Those are often the things that matter the most rather than numbers on a scale, which are kind of arbitrary. And that long-term weight loss success isn't just about reaching a certain number on the scales. Um, and someone in the chat has just mentioned they want to stay out of hospital with their asthma. Fantastic. That's a great reason to want to lose weight and to improve your health overall, reduce the inflammation in your body. This journey is step by step, a journey that and an opportunity to build that healthier lifestyle so that you can enjoy and maintain that better health, that better energy levels, that better sleep maybe for years to come. And there, as I said before, there will be good weeks and more challenging weeks. No one is perfect, no one's journey is perfect, and the goal isn't perfection. It's consistency, it's that persistence, it's that building of new habits that everything becomes automatic. Every healthy choice that you make is another step towards that future that you're aiming to create. Okay. So as we go through today's webinar, I'd encourage you to keep that picture you have in your mind, your personal goals, how you want to feel, perhaps in a year's time. Okay, because when you know when you're heading, where you're heading, it's much easier to make the decisions that keep you moving in that direction. Okay, so we've got a few great comments in the in the box here. A lot about knee pain, mobility, feel confident, fantastic, feel better about interactions with other people, run faster, okay, reduce ankle swelling, a lot about activity and joint pain, which is, yeah, to get surgery for a knee replacement, lower cholesterol. So a lot of health reasons here. So fantastic reasons to want to lose the weight and feel different in the body. So it's everyone's got their own personal reason, and you might not want to share it. If you feel comfortable, please do, because it inspires other people. Because often you'll get multiple benefits and benefits you didn't even realize that you would get. For example, sleep or a boost in your confidence or a improved energy that you weren't particularly aiming for, but it sort of comes as a package deal. So that's pretty great. More energy for the grandchildren, says Debbie. Fantastic. Yeah. To feel more confident going back to dating. Fantastic. These are all great reasons and things that motivate us. So to keep us on track. All right. I will thank you so much. Do keep your comments coming. We'll try and get through them and acknowledge you all, but we truly do appreciate your comments. Mandeep is going to talk about more about structure and motivation.
Right, thanks, Sam. It is honestly really great reading all the comments in the chat box, so keep them coming in. So one of the biggest differences, I guess, about between losing weight and keeping it off is that maintenance itself needs its own plan. So research shows that while a lot of people spend a lot of time planning on how to lose weight, they don't actually think about what happens once they've reached that goal. And actually, weight maintenance is just as important as weight loss itself. And without a plan, as Sam mentioned, it's very easy to drift back into old routines without even noticing. So which is why we encourage you to think about this stage of your journey now, rather than waiting until you've actually reached your target weight. So over the last few weeks, some of you may have attended our webinars and we've shared how you've successfully lost weight before, but then, you do regain it later on. So we're hoping that this time it feels different. And instead of relying on motivation alone, build a structure that can really support you. And this might mean things like weighing yourself more regularly, planning your meals, keeping active, or just simply maintaining those few small habits that fit quite easily into your daily life. Because motivation, we know, will come and go, and it's actually going to be structure which is going to carry you on the days when motivation is low. So, planning, I think, is really important. Um, and when you're getting to that stage, when you're in your weight loss maintenance, if you do start to notice weight start to creep back, don't see this as a failure. So see that as information to actually start acting early, returning to habits that work for you, and making smaller adjustments as well before a small regain becomes a much bigger one. And that's exactly what successful long-term maintainers do as well. So last week we talked a little bit about why weight regain happens. And this week we're talking about how to reduce the chances of that happening. I think we've got another a poll here at the moment, just trying to capture what phase of your weight loss journey you're currently at. And it looks like, yeah, so we've got a bit of a split. So most people are starting out or they are midway through. We've got a few people who are in the maintenance phase as well. So that's great. Brilliant.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great. So lots of people just starting out, eh? So nearly half of us, about a third of us midway, almost at the goal, 15%-ish. And we've got a few people here, maintenance, which is great, which is a really vital phase, which is what Mandeep has just said. So great. Yeah, and we've got some folks telling us how much they are aiming to lose and have lost in total. Great. Thank you for sharing. Sometimes it's nice to just actually have those figures in your mind, I think. What do you think, Mandeep? Just to sort of reflect, as a point of reflection, where am I? Where am I aiming to get to?
Absolutely. I think sometimes we forget actually how far we've come. And I always like to say, have a look back, look how far you've come from when you started, as well. And not just always focusing on the number on the scales either, but all the other things that we've already mentioned, more energy, sleeping better, feeling more confident. So really, I think it's a great time to always pause and reflect, on the journey so far.
Yeah, wowza. Louise has just shared, and I hope you don't mind, it was shared to hosts and panelists only, but she's lost 70 kilos since the end of December 2024, which is completely brilliant. Well done. That's amazing. So, huge congratulations. I know that lots of us here will have lost really well, but that's quite extraordinary. Oh, wow. Wowzers. Sheila's lost 5 stone, 5 pounds. Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. I mean, if you also those of us in the audience who've lost weight really well, if you've got some things to share, some tips and things that helped you, please do feel free to share in the chat. And we'd love to hear them as well. Lots of people have shared excellent things and reflecting on how you felt at the beginning of your journey to how you feel now, not just numbers on scales, which are kind of that's not really a feeling. Like, how do you feel? That's why we do things because we want to feel differently to how we are at the beginning of a journey, right? We want to, that is so individual. All of us will have different reasons for embarking on a journey that might present some challenges at some point. Um, so yes, thank you for sharing that. That's just excellent stuff and hopefully inspiring for people to know that you can do it and it takes time. I think that's also really important to note. This is we're not looking for overnight anything. We're looking for that gradual, stepwise, steady change. That's the sort of change that embeds our habits change, our attitude changes. We get used to doing things differently. We start replacing those habits of a lifetime that haven't served us so well and making those different choices. So anyway, onwards, otherwise I'll derail this whole thing. Right. Eating for life. Right, let's talk about food. So one of the biggest shifts we encourage people to make is moving away from that idea of being on a diet and instead thinking about how you want to eat for the rest of your life. It's such a cultural, societal thing that the whole diet culture, isn't it, Mandy? We hear it all the time. And it's really, we try not to mention the D word because it is really not helpful because um, most successful long-term weight maintainers don't usually follow restrictive diets forever. Instead, they develop that flexible and sustainable eating pattern that they enjoy. Okay, that is so key. I I love food. I'm really interested in food as well, and I think Mandeep, you probably love food as well. So we don't want to be living on a food choices that we hate. No one wants that for anybody. Okay, we have to find that eating pattern that we enjoy. That's why we often recommend a Mediterranean style approach to eating. It's not a strict diet, but a pattern of eating that's been consistently linked with good health and long-term well-being, especially cardiovascular, metabolic illnesses. So it's a diet that is focused on protein, on fiber, on enjoying the food, on actual sociability around food, fresh food, whole food, so food that's not wrapped in plastic, preferably quite fresh. Um, and what we know is that this enjoyment of food and this kind of switch from more processed foods to more whole foods can really support our health in the long term. Okay. We encourage you to make protein a priority to help you feel fuller for longer. This supports your muscle tissues, which is particularly important during weight loss, and it can make it much easier to manage your appetite when you have protein, a good amount of protein in your diet. Fiber is just as important. So fruit, vegetables, beans, pulses, whole grains really help support digestive health and keep you feeling satisfied, again, fuller for longer, and contribute to that overall health. So including your gut health, your microbiome, fiber's super important. And healthy eating should not feel like punishment. That's not what this is about at all. Food should still be enjoyable. Eating well doesn't mean giving up every food you love. It means finding that balance so you can maintain that healthier weight, that healthier size, that better joint health, that better lung health, or reduce your cholesterol, or reduce your risk of diabetes, all of that kind of thing. Not just for a few weeks, but for years to come. That really is what we want for you. And that's why we don't want you to think about being on a diet, because this is in our society that sounds like, oh, I'm on a diet for a couple of weeks or 6 weeks or whatever, and then I'm off the diet and I'll just go back to how I was, which is not going to help you in the long term. And I don't think anyone is here for a short term, um, for the short term. Instead, think about building an eating pattern that you genuinely enjoy and that supports your health over the long term. Because ultimately, the best eating plan isn't the one that helps you lose weight the fastest. It's the one that you can happily continue long after you've reached your goal weight. Um, Someone here, we've just got loads of comments, so thank you. This is great. Oh gosh, but we're going to carry on with the presentation, and I'll try and pick out some of these comments. Do you have anything to add to that one, Mandeep?
No, I think that's really helpful. And somebody else actually has just mentioned in the chat, which I thought was really important, that since they've stopped counting calories and thinking of it as a diet and gone on to eating whole foods, they've actually managed to lose, I think, around 4 stones. I've just seen pop up there on the chat. So,
Wowzers! Amazing.
it
Good
works.
for
Yeah.
you. It works. It works, and it's gradual and it's healthy and it's not restrictive, or I hope not miserable. You find the diet that there's lots. Mediterranean diet is it's a wide variety of things you can eat quite happily. The picture showing oily fish and tomatoes. That's one version you could have. I know we'll have people here who are vegetarian or vegan. In fact, Adna, would you mind sharing the protein? There's two protein handouts that we can share, and will help you with. It's not imp If you're vegan, there are things that you need to consider, but it can be done. It just requires more thought and more sort of learning around how to bring in protein into your diet and how to combine proteins over the day as well, so that you get the good full spread of amino acids over the day. It's really important as a vegan to be aware of that. I'm sure that you are, because most vegans are pretty clued up with these things. But it might help you. There might be some things on that diet, on that I'm not going to say diet, sorry, on that protein handout that will help you. So please do have a peek, save that document. Um, yes, fabulous. Great. We've got people who are using the medication, who are staying on the same dose. If you have a specific question, please put it in the Q&A box so that we can come back to it. I will move on to the next slide. Deep.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, so as we think about maintaining our weight loss, I think one of the things that's often overlooked is muscle. So muscle isn't just important for strength or fitness, but it's also your body's that metabolic safety net. So the more muscle you can maintain, the more energy your body uses throughout the day. So even when you're resting, muscle helps to support balance, mobility, independence, and healthy aging as well. So I guess the challenge is during weight loss, we don't just lose body fat. If we're not careful, we can lose muscle too. That's a bit that we want to protect. So protecting your muscle should be part of every successful weight loss journey. And a couple of key things, I guess, so, like some key ways to consider how we can do this. So, as Sam mentioned previously, firstly, prioritizing your protein. So, eating enough protein. We know that protein provides the building blocks that your body needs to maintain muscle, and also it helps keep you fuller for longer. Keep moving is the second one. So, any activity is beneficial, but more so including things like resistance or strength-based exercises, for example, resistance bands, using weights, or even using like body weight exercises. These can make a real difference in preserving muscle. Thirdly, we've mentioned it before, but it's really important, is prioritizing sleep. So good quality sleep supports recovery, hormone balance, and overall health as well. So all of which play a really important role in maintaining muscle and supporting healthy weight management over the long term. And then I guess finally, as you're moving into weight management, it's important to gradually rebalance your calorie intake. rather than staying on very low calorie intakes indefinitely, your body still needs enough energy and nutrients to support health and muscle maintenance as well. Um, you can get things like the body composition analysis, which can be quite helpful. It tells you a little bit more than just like the number on the scales, which doesn't really give us a breakdown, but can help to give you some insights into how much of our body weight is made up of muscle and how much is body fat. But as we mentioned earlier, success isn't just about that number on the scales. It's all the other things that we feel, within ourselves, the confidence, the ability to move, ability to be pain-free. So all of these things that are really, really important. So we want to help to lose fat, but also protect muscle, which is going to help to keep us healthy, strong, and active for years to come.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what we're talking about, the long game here, aren't we? We're talking about and I've seen a couple, I'm trying to go through all the comments, apologizing if I haven't got through to yours, but there's some great comments in the chat box about people's success. And one person commented they changed their whole lifestyle. They've lost weight really well, but they've had to change their whole lifestyle. But I would say, I think that's actually um, a really powerful thing to say and a really important thing to acknowledge that there will be lots of changes. And for lots of us here, we're right at the beginning of our journey. Please don't be overwhelmed. It's step by step. Another thing that many of the people in the chat box are saying is that this is a journey over a year, 2 years. This is not overnight. This is not a couple of months. This is persistence. This is what happens when you're consistent with the changes and that there can be a bit of up and down. No weight loss journey is a straight line. There will be days where it's more challenging. There will be a week where, oh my goodness, how have I gained 2 pounds in a week and I've done all the right things? It will even out. It will start to go down again. We do hit plateaus, um, where your weight just isn't shifting. You're doing all the right things and the scales aren't blimming moving. Really frustrating, but it is a crucial time. What we think of those plateau periods, which I think a few people have mentioned in the chat box, is that the theory is as a something called the set point theory. The body loves homeostasis. So that's where everything kind of stays the same, kind of hovers around the same time, same thing. So, the body wants to keep your blood sugar, for example, nice and stable. It doesn't want these big swings up and down. It kind of wants to keep your weight stable as well because it knows what to do at this weight. So if you are on a weight loss journey and you lose weight and it's different for everybody. Say you lost 10 kilos, your your body might think, oh my goodness, right, we've lost 10 kilos. What's happening here? We need to recalibrate everything. And this is going to take a bit of time for us to be sure that there's no kind of famine going on and that this is not a dangerous time when we have to conserve everything. So if we just carry on making sure we're not becoming malnourished and, starving ourselves or anything like that. So we're confusing the body with the wrong signals. We carry on with our good Mediterranean diet, for example, or Mediterranean way of eating, I should say, and just carry on with that. We're still getting good calories, we're getting good nutrients, we're having whole foods. We're not in malnourishment. The body will recalibrate to be like, you know what, actually 10 kilos lighter, we're actually all right. And then the weight loss will pick up again. I cannot tell you how long that period will be, unfortunately. It's different for everyone, and you may hit 5 plateaus in your journey, who knows? But and each one may be a different length, but it will go. That's just your body being very clever and very cautious and just making sure everything's okay before it's like, you know what? Okay, we're okay, we're safe. We can keep going with the weight loss. So um please don't panic in a plateau. As frustrating and annoying as it is your body trying to protect you. Um, right. Let's just move on. I'm sorry, I'm going off piste again. Right. Okay. So just want to touch on emotional eating, which is super important. And I think quite a lot of us in the first poll mentioned that emotional eating was a factor for us. For many of us, food isn't just about hunger. Sometimes we eat because we're stressed out, we're upset, we're lonely, we're celebrating, or perhaps because life is just overwhelming us. Okay. There's nothing unusual about that. Many people use food as a way of coping or finding comfort from time to time. Okay. The challenge is when food becomes our main response to those difficult emotions or stressful situations. Um, and if that resonates with you, it doesn't mean in any way that you have failed. It simply means there's an opportunity to become a bit more curious about your relationship with food. Um, And it's something to sort of look at and reflect on without judgment or being cross with yourself, nothing like that. Just noticing how central a role food plays in your life. And it's just an open question. Does food play a really central role in your life? Is it that comforter? Is it that something that you think about a lot over the day? Start recognizing the patterns that are there already. Okay. Um, so it's about when we recognize the patterns that are there, the thoughts that are there, think of it as actually accessing more freedom and empowerment because you realize that you have choices in all those moments where you're thinking about food, where you might be reaching for a snack, where you might just be on autopilot reaching for those snacks because you've always reached for a snack when you watch the news in the evening or when you have your 11s or whatever. It's not just a coffee, there's also chocolate bickies involved. Th- That's probably possibly an automatic behavior. So that's why we encourage you to use just a very simple framework. Pause, notice, and make a choice. So pause, notice, choose. Before you reach for the food, can you introduce a pause just for a moment to notice what's happening and ask yourself, am I physically hungry? Am I looking for comfort, distraction, or relief? And sometimes you'll still choose the food, and that's okay. That's a choice. That's the choice that you make. But the brief pause creates a moment of awareness, and that awareness is often the first step towards a lasting change. One thing that I find quite useful when it comes to this pause business is if you have in your kitchen, or even in your office kitchen, perhaps, like there's a treat cupboard, like that's where the biscuits are kept, right? Can you switch it with a different cabinet? Because you'll be on autopilot going to that cupboard. So can you switch it for another cupboard? And at least probably for a week or a few days, your brain will still automatically take you to the first cupboard. But if it's moved, it gives you those few seconds of awareness to be like, oh, okay, that's my opportunity to pause. And it's all about repetition, these things. And we're not going to get it, we're not going to be able to resist every time, but at least it gives us a chance, otherwise we're sort of making that automation very easy for ourselves. And we want to make the habit different. Or maybe we want to swap out the chocolate biscuits for something different, something that is going to love us back. Maybe it is um, an apple and peanut butter, if that is your thing. If it is a kind of an energy ball, you could make that with some cocoa powder and dates. So easy to make, no cooking involved. There would be 1,000 recipes on online if you wanted to look at how to make a new energy ball, or you can buy them pre-made. I know Deliciously Ella does some really good ones, or those Naked Bar, which are just dates and nuts. Those are far better choice than sort of very processed, very chocolatey things. Um, but we have to think about swaps and where we can bring in that pause to create that awareness so that we can make those lasting changes as we go forwards. I hope that's helpful to you guys, but it's emotional eating is can be a tricky one to break those habits. Okay, and to find other things that bring us comfort. That's another way. Are there other things that we can do other than turn to food? Are there people that we can talk to? Can we go out for a walk? Can we play with the dog? Play with the kids? Can we do something else that will just distract us from whatever thoughts are going through our heads and making us feel um, not so brilliant in that moment, perhaps.
Thanks, Sam. That was really, really helpful. I particularly like the explanation about the set point theory. I think that's really helpful to understand when we hit a plateau. I know so many of our patients get so disheartened, demotivated when they hit it.
That's
Actually
it.
reassuring it's normal, it's okay.
Yeah,
Don't see it as a failure. Just keep consistent with all the habits and the changes that you've made, which I guess kind of brings me on to talking about motivation a little bit, because I think one of the biggest misconceptions that we have about successful weight loss is that we think people who maintain their weight are simply more motivated. And actually, that's not always the case. We all experience motivation. Some days we are full of energy and determination. And there's other days where, life takes over. You're tired, you're busy, stressed. You've already made, so many decisions. So you don't always, feel like making healthy choices. And that's completely normal. So I guess one of the key things to recognize is that the difference between successful long-term maintainers are they don't rely just on motivation. So it's about building these habits, habits which are going to reduce the number of decisions we have to make. So, things become the norm, healthy meals become a default. For example, going for a walk, it just becomes part of your routine. You do it without thinking. Planning the weekly shop becomes more automatic. So I guess it's the small habits which are going to continue and hold you even on the days when motivation is low. And they don't need to be, big habits, but just small things which when you're repeating these consistently, they're going to make a big difference over time. So I guess rather than asking yourself, how can I stay motivated, like reframe it and think, what habit can I put into place which is going to make those healthy choices a little bit easier. So that might be, meal prep, for example, and preparing tomorrow's lunch, this evening, keeping healthy snacks, as you've just mentioned, Sam, a couple of ideas there, keeping those more readily available. So you've got them to hand, rather than going for a chocolate bar. Planning, I think, is definitely a key. So I think if you can try and plan as much as you can in advance, like planning the meals for the week, I find that, really useful tool to have. Other things could be, keeping your bottle of water filled, keep your walking shoes, ready by the door, because if it's all to hand, you don't need to think about it. We're already thinking about so many things throughout the day. It's one less thing to think about, you've got it there. So just, I guess it's that motivation will come and go, but your habits are going to stay with you. So it's really about embedding those as much as you can into your daily lives.
Yeah, because your habits are what's going to sustain you. So it's the habits of a lifetime, maybe the habits we had as kids, or how our parents didn't know any better. So that's, I grew up having very sugary breakfast cereals every morning, and that was normal in the 80s. But we know so much better now. And it's not about blame in any way, but we have to unlearn those patterns of, okay, I don't want a sugary, high carb breakfast cereal. How am I going to get my protein and fiber into this breakfast, for example? And sometimes breakfast is a bit of a tricky one because we're used to having sort of toast and jam maybe in the mornings or what have you. But maybe could we have nowadays we can get sort of quite good breads which are actually higher protein and have that with some peanut butter so that we've got some good fiber and protein in that breakfast as well, instead of that sugary cereal that shall go unmentioned. Um, right. But yeah, our habits remain. That's really important, Mandeep. Thank you for that. We've got so many comments. I'm sorry that I have not commented on all of your comments, but trying to. So this is the 80% rule. So if there's one message we really want you to take home from today's webinar is that you don't have to be perfect to be successful. So many people approach weight loss with an all or nothing mindset, and they tell themselves, for example, I had a biscuit today, I've ruined today, or I had a takeaway this weekend, I might as well just, you know, throw it all out the window this weekend and start again on Monday. But it doesn't work like that. Okay, one meal doesn't define your whole week, one day doesn't define your whole journey, and one setback certainly doesn't undo all the progress you have already made. Okay, successful long-term maintainers understand this and they don't expect perfection of themselves because this doesn't exist in life. They expect real life. Holidays happen, birthdays happen, stressful weeks happen. The difference is that they don't let one choice become the next 10 choices. They enjoy the occasion, then gently return to their usual routine. For example, there's a birthday, it's not that you will never have a piece of birthday cake again in your life or never have a glass of champagne. We don't want anyone to be miserable and skinny but miserable. That's not fun, right? So we want to acknowledge that real life is here. Okay. Um, we want you to enjoy the occasions and gently return to your usual routine, which is why we encourage the 80/20 rule. The aim is to make choices that support your health most of the time and acknowledge that it's not always possible. Okay, if around 80% of your choices are helping you to move towards your goals, there's still room to enjoy life celebrations and favorite foods without feeling guilty or shameful about it. Okay, consistency will always beat short bursts of perfection. Okay, and remember, being off track, off piste for one meal or one day doesn't mean that you failed. The most important decision is simply the next one you make. All right. Every meal is another opportunity to get back on track. Progress, not perfection, is what will lead to your lasting success. So, what does long-term success really look like? We know that weight fluctuates. We don't suddenly reach our goal and then it's just etched in stone forever. We know that there will be fluctuation at that level also. Okay. We often think that success looks like reaching a number and staying there effortlessly, but that's not what the science shows us. Weight does fluctuate, life happens. Even people who maintain weight loss long term, they have periods of drift. The difference is people who maintain notice early and they adjust early. Okay, so recognize that there's been a change. Right, what do I need to get back to my goal and feel like I'm on track and I'm in control. I'm in the driving seat. These are my choices. The people that maintain don't wait for a 1 or 2 stone regain. Okay, so success isn't I never go off track. It's I know how to come back. All right, so it's really important to have that kind of balanced approach and balanced relationship with weight, for example, or dress size. Maybe many of us are not going to enjoy standing on scales. So it might be dress size, how your clothes fit you, how you feel in your body, how you may have a different way that you gauge success and you configure your goal. It might not be a number on the scales per se. So do think about. I know we talk about weight a lot, but it doesn't have to be weight per se. It can be another marker for you that you feel much more comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sam. And I think it is really important to acknowledge, you don't have to do this alone. It's really important to, always remain kind to yourself. Like we said, it's not about being perfect. None of us are perfect, but it's about remaining, consistent and sticking to what works. As for most of the time, 80/20 rule, I think is perfect. We're here for you. We're 100% here for you. So we've got our Live Well, Live Well webinars. There's the weight loss podcast and also our tracker app as well, the Boots Online Doctor tracker app to support you on your weight loss journey as well. And I think have we got another poll here, Sam?
Ooh, um, is there a poll, Adna, perhaps on lasting weight loss here? If there is not, we don't need to worry too much on lasting weight loss, perhaps. Um, I'll give Adna a second to find it. Ah, brilliant. Thank you. So this is all about the week ahead. So, having listened to us talk and talk and talk, what would you like to focus on this week? Have a think. What is feasible? Remember, you don't have to make all the changes all at once. Sometimes it's step by step. We're presenting to you a lot of ideas and what resonates. Pick the low-hanging fruit. Pick what sounds easy for you in your life. We're all a little bit different. We all have different routines, busyness, other people we share the kitchen with. It's not always straightforward. So pick the easy things, and then I think getting those quick wins under your belt, so realizing when things are achievable, it inspires you to do the more trickier things, more tricky things. Um, thank you, everybody. So, right, what are people interested in doing this week? Yeah, building balanced meals with protein and fiber. We talked about that quite a lot today. Slowing down at meal times, that's a great one. And I saw someone in the chat box talk about chewing more.
Mm.
Fantastic. That's one we don't say enough, actually, to really chew your food before you swallow. And I know that a lot of us have got into the habit of wolfing down food. We don't have enough time. We don't have a lunch break. We're eating between phone calls or whatever we're doing at work. And it it really is important. Your digestion starts actually as soon as you get hungry. That's when your digestive enzymes start to be released, and then digestion starts in your mouth before it goes as part of your digestive tract. So yeah, chewing super important to get all your nutrients and to actually really taste and appreciate your food and to eat a bit more mindfully, not necessarily slowly, just with awareness. Um, what other things would people like to do? Reduced unplanned snacking, fantastic. Another popular one, drinking more water, brilliant. Healthier drinks, yep, because there are a lot of hidden unhelpful things in drinks that are dressed up as diet drinks, which still are very sweet and will still trigger an insulin response. So we want to kind of train ourselves out of perhaps the need for sweetness all the time, that, train ourselves out of needing sugary drinks as much as we can. I know we haven't really focused on that, but it's something that will help us along the way. Okay, so thank you everybody for filling in the poll answers. Um, just to let you know, our next webinars, we've got a webinar next Monday, all about food, what to eat to lose weight. Monday the 10th, we're all away, so we won't be having a webinar on the 10th of August. 17th, how to eat for weight loss. So we've got what to eat and then how to eat. So both of them really useful, normally very popular webinars. So do come along. They're all completely free. Do sign up on Eventbrite. I'm sure Adna will share the link in the chat box. And then towards the end of August, on the 24th, we've got a website all about mindset for lasting weight loss. That is so, so key as well. But we're going to move on now to the Q&A session. So we're going to try and look through the chat box. I know there are a few questions in there, but they often get missed. So, but we are going to prioritize questions in the Q&A box. Please do. There's a way you can upvote questions. So you can tell us which questions other people have put in that you would quite like the answer to as well. Um, I'm just going to start cracking through, Mandeep. If you see stuff you want to answer, please go ahead. Becky's asked, is it okay to stay on a low dose Manjaro, 2.5 milligrams long term? Yes, as far as I'm concerned, if it's working for you, that is fine for us at Boots Online Doctor. I assume that that's a maintenance dose. Yeah, if it's helping you maintain, that's absolutely fine. If it's helping, even if you're on a if you're on a weight, if you're still looking to actively lose weight, would also be fine. So
Mhm.
thank you. Um, what else have we got? Looking at a BMI range, I think I'd look ill if I went that low. Can you recommend how best to set the end goal? That's a really good question.
Mhm.
Um, how, how would best? So you could use the BMI guide, the healthy guide, as a a reference point. You don't have to go down to the bottom 20 of a BMI of 20. You could be at 25. To be honest, you don't even have to necessarily be in that healthy BMI range. I don't know where you're starting from. So if you're, depending on where you're starting from, the goal might be to get to 30, and then you'd be absolutely over the moon to have a BMI of 30. And I'd be over the moon for you as well if you started off with a BMI of 50, say. But that's going to be really personal because it's not just about a number on the scale. The what the BMI range gives you is data from a sort of population study that shows that your risks of various metabolic illnesses like diabetes, type 2 diabetes, like heart disease, like stroke, like Alzheimer's, all of these things reduce when your BMI is in that healthy range. So that's maybe where you want to be, but it may not be where you want to be. It may be that you're actually super happy with a BMI of 27. And I can't tell you what weight that will be because it will depend on your height. Um, but it's very personal. And actually, it might be that you go along your weight loss journey, you get to a BMI of 29, and whatever weight that means for you, and you're actually really happy with that, and you want to maintain there. And that's a personal choice. No one at Boots Online Doctor is going to push you to go anywhere that you don't want to go. If that's your goal, it's a personal thing. I hope that's helpful. If you have any follow-up questions, please do let us know.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. I think that brings us, somebody's asking here if we recommend using the body composition scale, such as those in the gyms. And if so, how often would you suggest checking body composition? So, body composition, it does help to give you a useful insight into, how much proportion of your body is fat, body fat, and what is muscle. So it's a useful guide as opposed to when we're looking at just scales, it's a number and we don't actually know what our body composition is. So I guess if you've got access to a scale which can give you a useful, accurate breakdown, then it is helpful. But we wouldn't recommend getting kind of hung up on it and using it every week. I guess however often you need to check, it depends on like, where you are on your weight loss journey as well. If you're in your maintenance phase, you may not need to be checking so frequently. If you're actively losing weight, it's a good idea to keep an eye on your weight loss so you know exactly how you're progressing, especially if you're on weight loss treatment as well. That may help to guide your dose as well. If you're actively losing on the dose that you're on, then you may not need to increase your dose. So it depends how often you need to check, it's again where you're at on your journey.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think definitely useful to know your body composition.
And useful to know the trend, really. It's even if you're in the maintenance phase and you're building muscle, it's quite nice to know, oh, my skeletal muscle is increasing, or what I'm doing is actually making a difference. So sometimes it can be, some of us find that really motivating. We track so many things these days, so it might be a motivating thing for you. But I don't know, what would you say, Mandeep? Maybe every 2 weeks you might want to do that if you can at your gym. I wouldn't say it would really be necessary more than every 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And what advice do you have for those who are almost at target BMI about lowering the dose to come off Manjaro to continue to lose towards the goal BMI but balance the potentially increasing hunger of food noise? Yeah, so this is a really good question. We get asked this a lot about what dose should I be on for maintenance? What is the right dose? And again, this is very individualized. So for some people, it could be the highest dose. That is the dose that they need to help to maintain their appetite, but also not actively losing weight. For some people, it can be a lower dose. It can be much lower. It might even be the starting dose, such as 2.5 milligram. That is enough to kind of curb that food noise. But also maintain their weight as well. So I guess it's individualized. There's no set, you don't need to kind of reduce in a set way. You can go straight down to a lower dose if that works for you. It might be a bit of trial and error. So, for example, you might be on the highest dose now. You might drop down, to 7.5, for example, a middle dose, and find actually no, this isn't quite working for me, and you may need to increase again. So I think it's very individualized. It's about finding the balance for you. Hopefully that
Yeah.
helps as well.
And kind of it allows you to sort of test how your habits are holding up. You've set your habits now, you've got to your BMI, you've developed some really great habits. Right. So without the extra help of the injection, how do my habits stack up? So it can be a little bit of a test, and it's also a kind of a bit of a crutch, really, isn't it, for many of us, because it's helping us. Um, and for some of us, we don't want to be on the medication long term. Some of us will need to be for various reasons. Um, but it's one of those things of just I would suggest doing it gradually. Don't be hard on yourself. It's not about judging yourself or being unkind. Like Mandeep said earlier, always be kind to yourself on this journey. It does present challenges. And when there's medication on board, there's an extra sort of thing to think about the medication and how to come off. Um, but be prepared that hunger will return, food noise will return. So have those healthier snacks on hand. Have that you know what you're eating, you know what your routine is. So just go into it prepared, so that probably I wouldn't necessarily advise to do it over Christmas, for example, when there's just so much temptation all around the place. So pick a period where you will be able to give it your full attention.
Yeah, and someone was asking her when you talk about maintenance, are you talking about being on a low dose or being off the medication? And again, this can be whatever it is for you. So for some people, they are in their maintenance phase and they are continuing to take a low dose of treatment, and that's okay because that's working for them. And for other people, they do trial coming off treatment and they want to maintain without treatment with all the healthy habits, and that's also okay. So maintenance is whatever that looks like for you, staying it around, your goal weight or however you feel, whatever is comfortable. But it's maintaining that over a longer period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Right. Oh, is there a minimum amount of daily calories? Uh, there probably is. Thank you for that question. And I would expect, in fact, I don't know, could we share the BMR calculator, please? That might be helpful for our audience. So I believe it's the um, Diabetes UK website. You can calculate your basal metabolic rate, and it will give you an idea, and then do an extra calculation depending on how active you are, on how many. We don't often talk about calories, but sometimes it's useful. It's just a unit of energy. How many calories you would need in a day to maintain your current weight. So I think one of the things we have to be very careful of if a weight loss injection is involved or weight loss medication is involved is that we don't become malnourished. We don't lose our appetite so much that we don't eat properly, or we start getting dizzy in the day, or we start not being able to really and we're also trying to increase our exercise perhaps as well, and we just can't do what we used to be able to do because we haven't got energy on board. So we really need to, if you are finding that you are not able to eat properly, at least 2 meals a day, preferably, not preferably, maybe 2 meals a day is enough for you. But and hydrate well over the day. If you cannot do that, then speak to your provider because you might need to reduce the dose because the aim is not to starve yourself because what the medication is doing is reducing your hunger, but your body actually does need energy every day. It does need nutrients every day. You have nutritional needs. So hopefully that is helpful if we can share with you that link for the BMR calculator just to have an idea of a minimum intake for you.
Yeah. And someone's asking how long is a plateau? So again, this is going to be very individual depending on you. And I think as well for each person, you can go through several plateaus when you're on your weight loss journey, and they can all kind of last, a different amount of time. And again, that's very normal. As Sam mentioned earlier, a weight loss journey is not linear. So it's not going to be, you just consistently lose, lose, lose. It is, it's very much up and down, and that's okay. And it's okay to be in plateau. It's just about during that time remembering and being consistent with all your healthy habits as well. Thinking about all the tools that you've got in your toolbox and really utilizing those at that time. So yeah, how long it's going to be individual for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, we don't have an answer for that one, I'm afraid. But it's think of it as that opportunity to keep your habits consistent, like just keep at it, keep doing that, having your routine, being, focusing on your health. You're doing it for you, right? You're doing it, you are getting the rewards. And also, you might notice things that are not on the scale. You might notice that your clothes fit differently, that you have more energy, that you have less joint pain, that you're sleeping better, all of those things. But the numbers on the blimming scales aren't changing, which is very frustrating. But notice the other things. I think someone called it on another webinar non-scale victories, I believe. That I thought that was really good because there are, the scales are kind of arbitrary anyway, but they give us an objective thing. But actually, the other things like, oh gosh, this shirt looks better than on me than it used to. Oh, I can actually do up these buttons a lot more easily on these jeans, or perhaps I'm actually using my belt a tighter hole, and yeah, it might be a those things that you notice rather than the numbers on the scales. So I hope that that is helpful. There's somebody who's asking about fasting and about intermittent fasting or time restricted eating. Great questions. And our webinar on how to eat is all about these things. So I'd warmly encourage you to sign up for that one and come along and listen. Um, um, I think it can be a really nice way to support your health. It gives your whole system a bit of a rest, usually overnight. I would start with a simple 12-12 pattern if you're doing time restricted eating, which is having a 12-hour fast overnight. So, for example, you would have your breakfast at 8 in the morning and you would have your dinner, finish your dinner by 8 o'clock in the evening and not eat anything after that. Clear fluids are fine, but just not having any more food after that time. And you would do that every day. That would be a sort of eating pattern that you would adopt. And you could use a Mediterranean diet, of course, with that style. Some people do reduce the eating window to shorter than that. I would just go with 12-12, to be honest, to start with. 5-2, I think for men, the research is better than it is for women, somewhat better. Um, I think time restricted eating, having an eating window every day is a bit of an easier thing than 5-2 personally. Um, but some people have great success with 5-2. So it's very personal and what fits into your lifestyle, really.
Mm, absolutely. I've got somebody asking a question here about the Wegovy tablets. How long does it take for the Wegovy tablets to start working? I've only been taking them a few days and haven't noticed any change in my desire to eat yet. So with any treatment, even though it does start to work straight away in the body, it will take a little bit of time for you to see the full effect. So a few days I probably wouldn't expect to see much of a difference. I would recommend that you stick with it It might be a couple of weeks before you really start to see a noticeable difference, and then actually you tend to notice more as you work up through the doses. As you get to the higher doses, that's when you'll really start to see some of the big difference. So again, be patient, yeah, and just give it a little bit of time. A few days won't be enough for it to quite get to that peak level in your system just yet.
Thanks, Mandeep. So, um, I've got a question. Does Mounjaro, one of the weight loss injections, alter your taste buds, or is that healthy eating starting to stick? Well, what a great question. Some people actually say they have
Mm,
less of a preference for sweet things with Manjaro and Wegovy, and some people say the opposite. So I'm not really sure
mm,
which way it goes. But I do know that you can change your taste buds. So you can, for example, stop putting sugar in your tea and be quite happy with having a non-sugared tea with some time. We can train ourselves out of these habits. So I think you are doing that yourself. Manjaro may be helping you a little bit, but you're doing it yourself. So maybe you'll be craving less sweet things. That's not to say that, if Manjaro is helping you a little bit and then you suddenly stopped it, that some of that sweetness craving will return. Okay. But if you have the habit in place already, it's going to be less strong, if you see what I mean. So, you are helping yourself by altering your tastes by sort of retraining what you enjoy, retraining your taste buds as to what you enjoy. I hope that's a helpful answer. Um, what else have we got here? How often do you recommend weighing yourself to ensure you're getting an accurate picture of your weight loss progress, especially with how weight can fluctuate so much? So, great question. I wouldn't say more than once a week is necessary. If you wanted to do once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, that is also fine. I would do it at the same time of day. Um, maybe you do it, every Saturday morning or every once a month on a Saturday morning, after you've had a shower or something like that. So you're, wearing the same clothes or just wrapped in a towel or what have you, just so it's a bit more consistent, um, so that you can see a pattern. But you're looking for a pattern. And you're not concentrating so much on you don't have to concentrate so much on the numbers. Think about how you're feeling as well. Like, how are you feeling in your body? How are your joints feeling? How is your sleep? How's your energy? All those softer signs, those non-scale victories, those are equally important, if not more important, I would say. So, how much carb is okay? Carbs are not evil. Can we agree on this? Carbohydrate is in everything. Okay, vegetables have carbohydrates in them. That's fine. We don't we love vegetables, but they also have other things. So I would say refined carbohydrates are what you really need to be looking at. So things that are basically um, processed carbohydrates. So I would say, certain breakfast cereals that are very processed that might have sugar in them that don't have any. So even the ones that seem very healthy, they're not all bad. It's just that they don't have any protein or any or they might have some fiber in, but they won't have much protein. So, for example, maybe you have a sort of nutty granola. That's actually quite a good one. A nutty granola, maybe with some Greek yogurt, which will have some protein in there too. Maybe some good probiotics as well. The nuts will have some protein and some good micronutrients as well. And the carbohydrate of the oats, will have fiber as well because you've got the sort of the what's the word? The husk, the outside of the oats, which will also give you some fiber in there. So I'm guessing the question is how much carb is okay. And I don't want anyone to think that carbs are the enemy in any way, but we want to look at processed carbs. We want to make sure that when we're having carbohydrates, we're having the full, the full, the full food, for example. So maybe you're having wholemeal or whole wheat toast, or you're having brown rice. Just support you. You can have white rice sometimes, but maybe for the most part, you're having the rice that gives you the carbohydrate, which gives you energy, and that our body runs on carbohydrates. So we do need some, but we don't usually need to think about having carbohydrates in our diet because it will be there anyway. It will be in your carrots, it will be in your courgettes or your peppers or what have you. There will be an amount of carbohydrates in there. So carbohydrates are not terrible things. I hope that's helpful. there isn't really an answer to how much carb is okay because carbs are okay, but just build your plate around protein and fiber.
Mhm. Should I finish with the, I just want to mention this last one because someone's
Mm,
asking about water. So I just want to cover this off. So water, remaining hydrated while you're on an injectable or any weight loss treatment is super, super important. So we want to reduce the risk of dehydration. I think the caution is around Wegovy pills. So if you're on Wegovy pills, in particular, then you do need to take them when you've had a overnight fast. So at least 8 hours without any food or drink. Small sips of water if you need them during the night is fine. When you take the pill, it's a small sip of water, but then we do recommend that you wait at least 30 minutes before you have anything to eat or drink. But maintain your normal hydration throughout the day is absolutely fine and quite important.
great, great. Yes, it is 2 o'clock. Um, I just want to address this one. Someone has asked, my plateau has lasted a year. God, that's so frustrating. It's a lot of money to pay for Manjaro, without the results. What I would say, notice the other changes. Hopefully, there are other changes, maybe joint pain, maybe energy, maybe your clothes fit differently. But I would also really look at how you're building your plate. Make sure that there is enough protein on that plate. So we talk about 1 gram per kilogram of your body weight of protein split over a day. Okay, split over your 3 meals. All right. That with some with fiber, so your vegetables on your plate, maybe your beans or pulses on the plate also, and you can, building your meal around those tenets really, making sure you're really well hydrated. I think that will really, it really does help when you sort of get into a solid routine to break that plateau cycle, which unfortunately has lasted a whole year. That's really frustrating, and I'm sorry about that, but really focus on that. Really, really make it your focus to build your plate in that way and to plan your meals and so that you are able to maintain that and hydrate and make sure you are hydrating with clear fluids, hopefully unsweetened, clear fluids over the day. You can use, lemon, you could use berries this summer to flavor your water, but trying not to add any sort of sugar substitutes if at all possible. I hope that helps. Let us know how you get on. Right, I think we are going to have to go. It's 2 minutes past two. We'll let you get back to your days. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for those all your amazing comments. I'm sorry we didn't get to answer all of them. You had so many questions. But if you're a Boots Online Doctor customer, please do answer. Ask your questions and we will answer them via your patient record. Do write in. There's a feedback link on the chat box there, so please do give us some feedback. If there are things that we didn't cover, that you would like us to cover in future webinars, please do let us know. It's been wonderful to have you, and thank you so much, Mandeep and Adna in the background.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a nice day.
Bye.